a story, one where we're both wandering all over this room. Maybe I'll say what you're needing. You won't take back your pleading, and this time we'll shine bright. Tell me your story. When that keeps me falling asleep at your own. Maybe our hearts will stop mourning, 'cause tragedy's boring now that I found you.
Hello, chaps and chapettes. Welcome to another installment of the NobCast. My regular co-host, Gasky, has returned because there's actually some stuff to talk about in respect of Manchester United. Now, in today's installment, what we are going to be discussing, of course, is Manchester City's victory, their very close victory against Wolves and the surrounding context around that. Manchester United defeating Brentford. No easy task because Brentford are a very decent team. Has Marcus Rashford proven Gasky wrong, or is it too early to tell in that respect? But there's only really one place to start, and that is actually something that Gasky started by messaging me privately and just saying, have you seen this that's been going around? And now, indeed, I have. I discussed it yesterday with LB on his channel, and if you've been on Twitter for any period of time, like the past few days, couple of weeks even, and also it's not exclusive to this season, then you will know the very odd situation that's been happening in the world of a very certain group of Arsenal fans. I'm just going to say that disclaimer, if we say throughout this show Arsenal fans are saying this, we're talking about only a very specific, what I would like to think are a vocal minority online in particular. We're not outing out anyone in particular, we're just talking about what appears to be a very loud social media following, which is maybe stemming into stadium fans as well. Gasky, mate, it's been a while since you've been on the show. Chat, let me know if you've missed him or is he just a fraud. But how have you been, mate?
I have been very good. I have my team have finally won a game, so we can smile and we can be back.
Yeah, well, you can smile. I don't care
Simple
about
as
United
that.
winning.
I know you don't, but I do.
And we will get into that, of course. Now, Gasky, but as I say, there's only really one place I want to start, and that is with, the messages, as I say, that you sent me. How do you see the current situation? Provide some background context, and then provide your the insanity of what we are witnessing.
I just don't get why there's just conspiracies. They're creating these conspiracies that the world's out to get them, and that decisions are purposely going against them, and then they come into the conclusion that they don't want them, it's rigged and they don't want them to win the league and stuff. And it's like it's their players that have been kicking the ball away and getting the sent off. It was Saliba who fouled the man last man, and then I think there was people creating this thing of Ben White will catch him. And
Oh,
even
that
saw
was
it on Sky.
iconic.
No, but then even saw it on Sky, you might have seen it on Sky Sports. They actually compared their top speeds of both players to see if he would catch him. And I'm like, what? That does not come into last man at all. You can't, because it's like saying if Kyle Walker's playing, a City player can never be sent off because he will just catch them. It doesn't work like that.
Well,
So
I mean, 2024 Kyle Walker might not catch him, but yeah, I see your point. Yeah,
but you know what? You get my point. So, like, I can understand their frustrations after the Liverpool Chelsea game, but you've just got to be realistic. The ball in from the Chelsea Liverpool game is high in the air. It's two Chelsea players right on top of him. He's not in on goal. The ball to Evan Nilsson, he's pretty much rolling in front of him. It's about to bounce 2 yards, 3 yards in front of him for him to run onto, one-on-one with the keeper, and he's been fouled. It's completely different situations. So I just don't get why they create it, and then they'll go and nitpick every little bit that he's kicked the ball away, he's done this, he's done that, and it's like, but they're not the same situations at all.
Mm-hmm. And even if it was, I'm sorry, but like, get over it to a point.
That's what I mean. Every you could go back 10 years, and there'll always be, you could nitpick every little situation across multiple teams. Wolves have got -20 on from VAR. in the last 3 years, I think it is, or something like that. They feel hard done by,
Hmm.
if any team. So and they're crying over like one or two decisions. It's like you need to play with 11 men on a football pitch. If your players are lacking discipline for whatever reason, that's down to the team.
Yeah, I mean, this comes back to that thing of like you can only really control your controllables. So even, I mean, I'm sorry, the Saliba one is a red card, but let's just get that.
No,
Let's get that
it is a red,
established. It just is.
and that's just down to discipline. At the end of the day, you're playing against, no offense to Bournemouth, but you're playing Bournemouth and you're a title challenger. Let him go in one-on-one. You've got one of the best keepers in the league, arguably, right
Hmm.
now. Give him a chance to save it and have 11 men on the pitch to go and win at the other end.
Yeah,
So
that's what I don't really understand. Like, so when I watch a football match, now obviously I'm going to be annoyed if I feel like a refereeing decision doesn't go my way, but I get over that pretty quickly. When
you get over it after the 90 minutes,
Yeah.
unless it's blatantly ridiculous,
Well,
then
yes,
you don't.
exactly.
But
Let's take a real world example. So last season, the Spurs game at the Etihad, it was it 2-2 or was it 3-2? I think it may have been 3-2. And Haaland sends Jack Grealish away. He's going to be 1v1.
Yeah.
The referee doesn't play advantage.
the ref blows the whistle too early and whatnot. That is
Yeah.
frustrating.
Exactly. And I was in the
But
stadium.
you get over it.
Yeah, I was in the stadium.
Yeah.
And obviously, I was fuming, and I was like, "What is going on?" Many expletives were said, and obviously, we're booing the referees. But the next day, when I'm asked to analyze the game on like someone else's channel, and they say, "Oh, what did you think about the refereeing decision?" My first thought is, well, we weren't good enough from a finishing perspective, and that's why we lost the game. We weren't good enough defensively.
That should be the first thought. At the end of the
drew
day,
the
the
game.
referees are human. They're going to make errors like that. Like there was the Liverpool Spurs game, weren't they, where there was just a communication error and with VAR thinking that the ref had given offside, but he'd given the goal. You know, it was completely wrong. It's human error. It's
Mhm.
always going to happen. It's like the players do it. Players make human error. It is what it is. You can't stop that. It's just what the issue is. But if your first thing after you've lost a game is to blame VAR, blame conspiracies, anything but your team, then I don't get why you watch the game, why you watch the sport. At the end of the day, you're not going to win. You're not going to win 38 matches.
Yeah,
You know,
it's odd, isn't it? Arsenal haven't said something, Toby. We're talking about, and we're not talking about you because you're one of the reasonable Arsenal fans. We're talking about a specific subset of vocal Arsenal fans online who sadly have a very big social media following. I don't know I don't know the names off the top of my head, but it's like those people who don't actually have a profile picture. It's like, you know, they've got like a
players.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know the names off the top of my head, but it's those, and they've got like AI.
I mean, I've
images or
seen,
whatever.
I've seen a couple where they've said Saliba's an idiot for doing that. You know, it works both ways, but obviously the ones where they're throwing negative energy around are the ones that you spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Because people are commenting, going, "Shut up."
Yeah, and that's the area that we're talking about there. Donna, thank you so much for renewing your membership and becoming a Nabinho Ultra again. Thank you so much. Welcome back to the Ultras Club. You also get a random footballer as part of your thing, and I mean, it's not particularly good one, but I'm going to ask Gasky for a rating out of 10 for this player. It is Everton defender Mason Holgate. Rate that out of 10, Gasky. It's a pull.
As a oh god, 2.
Sorry,
I mean, he had that moment in the Merseyside derby, didn't he? Was that who was he scrapping with? Can't remember who he scrapped with.
Yeah, I think it was Henderson or Firmino, maybe one of
Oh,
those.
something
two.
like that. He scrapped with someone, and that was funny.
Yeah,
But I'll give him a 10 for that, but 2 for the player.
Thank you, Donna. Welcome back to the Ultras Club, and there is your profile picture, forever immortalized, because I keep all of my subscriptions. Jack with a classic 0 out of 10 crazy. But there we go. Yes, so just back to that. It is. And then, I mean, before we even get talking on conspiracy, I think that if your first port of call, as you've said, is to blame refereeing decisions, because it happens to every single club, there is no. I think that there is a legitimate thing in terms of the bigger clubs in general get better calls, because I don't think that's a conscious bias thing. I think that's more of an unconscious bius thing, and that is wrong.
I think there is, but I think you also got to take into account City and Arsenal are going to attack more. They're going to have more of the ball, which means they're going to be more decisions relating to them than other teams, I would say. So, I mean, that's also has to be taken into account. But yeah, I do get what you're saying. You know, there is a lot of, I think there's more pressure on them when they shouldn't be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And again, I don't think that's a thing of a referee goes into a game. So for example, you know, Fergie's era, United got a lot of decisions that went their way. Now, I don't think that was because Fergie bribed the refs. I don't think that was Roy Keane, you know, intimidated the referee at halftime. It's just the nature of the environment that you're in. Subconsciously, it might happen. And
From a human being aspect, it's safer for you to give it.
yeah,
Because of the state, because of the state of the world. It's the state of the world. That's all it is. You know,
Yeah,
it's safer for them.
Exactly. So we need to make it clear that we're not, you know, saying that there is a conspiracy. And just going into that now, the fact that, because again, it's one thing to complain about those decisions. Again, I think that's personally the wrong thing to do, because if you are doing that, what you are not doing, or rather what you are allowing to have happen, is you are basically giving the players and the team, the manager, the tactics, whatever, a free pass in terms of
your
like,
manager.
Go on.
Your manager has put out a team of 4 centre backs and 4 defensive midfielders against Bournemouth, and you're then basically saying we deserve to win that game before the game has started, which is ridiculous. I'm sorry, you're playing Bournemouth and you've played, it was 3 defensive midfielders pretty much and 4 centre backs.
Yeah, and
You
what
can't expect a lot.
Yeah, and what you're doing is you're basically just, as I say, giving them that free pass and that excuse, rather than going, So I'll take another example from City last season. You know, quite apt. It was the Wolves game. Now Juan, who scored the winner, should have been sent off. He should have got a second yellow. But I think we did like a NobCast episode on that at the time. You didn't really hear me complain about that much. What you mainly heard me talk about was the fact that why did we basically create nothing? Why did we capitulate just because Rodri wasn't on the pitch? That is not good enough. Why didn't we defend Pedro Neto better? Why has Ake made that error for the first own goal? It's not good enough. And then you are holding the team accountable, which hopefully in turn, and you know, you might say, oh, you're holding the team accountable. Why does that make a difference? I'm sorry, but if you don't think that social media patter leads into stadium patter, which therefore impacts the players and the manager, etc., then you're in a fairy tale, because it clearly does. It clearly does. Like, the players are actively parroting what is said on social media, whether it's you know, City, whether it's you know like Bernardo Silva saying how he feels like City players are hard done by in Team of the Year, whether it's, you know, Trent, whatever you think of his comments saying, you know, this means more, whether it's Arsenal players talking about
some players come back, don't they? Like Rashford comes back constantly on social media, like that's, you know, reacting to things, and it does affect them. Of course it does.
Definitely, yeah. And I just think that if that's the attitude, then it just gives the players a free pass, and then they can go, it wasn't our fault. We don't need to change anything. Let's just go into the same game with the same mentality and same setup.
The decision is what ruined the game. But it's like if you're playing the worst team in the league and you like, we'll batter them, and you lose 1-0 of a dodgy decision. Okay, you could be unhappy with the dodgy decision, but your team hasn't battered them. So why is your team not battered? And should be the first protocol.
Yeah, So, and that's before we even get to the conspiracy. Let's get on to that now. I'm just going to catch up on the chat. That's what we're going to do. Nobbins leaking DMs. Yes, absolutely. So the very specific group of fans I'm talking about, it is a victim mentality, definitely. Once again, I'm going to reiterate, because I think it's very important, because people might just be joining. Not all football fans. It's not all Arsenal fans, of course. We're talking about very specific
Every
sets.
club has them. It's not just Arsenal. It's every club will have them.
Maybe this isn't fair. Maybe it's just because Arsenal have a very strong social media presence that maybe I'm just seeing it more. Maybe that's what it is. So maybe it's not even fair to talk about it, but maybe that's the thing. Hello, Uno. How are you doing? Wagwan to Donna. People say we don't get decisions against us. That's City. The rivals just don't remember because we don't cry about it for weeks after the game. I mean, lots of decisions do go against it. I mean, I've just listed 2 off the top of my head. Do we even need to talk about, you know, the Bruno Fernandes offside goal, which is clearly offside.
Exactly.
Like
that was ridiculous.
It happens frequently. I would also say it happens a lot in games where City win the game. So it doesn't actually end up mattering.
You don't really care as much.
Yeah, and therefore
which is an example. Yeah, which is an example of you played well. So who cares?
Yeah, and it's not really spoken about. Lewis says that Arsenal are ill-disciplined. I mean, objectively this season they have been, absolutely. I mean, again, you can argue about the Declan Rice one, for example. Is that fair? Is that reasonable? Now let's assume that no, it wasn't. No, it isn't reasonable. Sorry, let's assume that was the wrong decision. Okay, but it's happened, and you didn't lose any points because you won the Spurs game. Wonderful. But now you know that it can happen. So maybe in the game after that, maybe don't do it again. That would probably be like a suggestion there. Like, you've seen it happen.
So like, the Declan Rice one is like if you compare it to the Trossard one, it is bad because the Trossard one is blatantly booted the ball away. So I can understand why the ref's gone, yeah, mate, you're off.
Yeah.
But yeah, look at it from both aspects. The referee has sent him off for that. And if they're happy with the decision, then they're obviously going to look at it more. So like you said, don't do it again. But they've blatantly done it again, and then you've been sent off again.
Toby says, the main reason Arsenal fans cry more is because some of them have sort of half heard about the conspiracy surrounding Wenger and the refs. I don't actually know what that is. The conspiracy surrounding Wenger and the refs definitely does have legs. I don't think we can view the refs as morally sound. I actually don't know what that conspiracy is, to be honest, Toby. So if you could let me know, that would be very interesting. That'd be very interesting. Arsenal have the largest amount of them with larger followings than they should have, says Jack. And just because whilst Toby's going to tell me about that conspiracy, let's get into the conspiracy as well. Because once again, there's one thing to be annoyed about a certain thing. And we will get on to City United, by the way. I just wanted to start this because it's been such a mad thing that's been happening recently. But I want to do some content about it and put it to bed on the channel. There's one thing to be annoyed about something, and it's incompetence, right? But to then go into a conclusion of, well, and this happens so frequently, well, the refs are in City's pockets, and City are influencing the PGMOL, and this is why, I mean, every decision doesn't go their way. I'm sorry, the Bernardo Silva offside isn't offside. I can't believe that is what has caused this.
Every team does it. I'm pretty sure Ben White tried to take the keeper's gloves off. That's worse. I'm sorry, but that's ridiculous.
That was really
funny.
And
then they go, oh, that's so clever. And it's like, you can't... Bernardo Silva sat on the keeper like every player does. All Sarr has to do is try and get to the ball and go down. He gets a foul. Because we know goalkeepers are overprotective in that regard. But he doesn't. He knows he can't get past, so he steps back, and Bernardo Silva jumps out of the way. Yeah. It is clever, and it's smart.
Yeah, and Bernardo Silva literally ducking. He's doing the opposite of interfering right there. So he's helped the keeper. Yeah, really, literally. So I can't believe that is what has triggered all of this talk. Yeah,
I don't get it.
So, and there's that image of Howard Webb going around, and people are like, oh, I'm so interested to see what Howard Webb was saying, with the inference the clear inference being that there's some dodgy stuff going on. Now, I'm sorry, but if we are going to assume that there is this £1 million, £1 billion value conspiracy going, was that's what football is, like it's like a very high value industry. Do we really think that Howard Webb is going to be doing this in front of everyone, in front of the cameras, where people can lip read him? Or if we were going to give this conspiracy some form of credence, do we think that Howard Webb would be doing it behind closed doors, behind a curtain?
I don't get it. It's like the worst thing. What he's probably done is think about it, right? There's a lot of slagging off going on for the PGMOL, right? He's obviously been more on it. So when this decision is coming on, he's probably got the ability to listen to it. He's probably just listening back to see how they got to the thing and then gone, I'm happy with that, from his opinion. That's probably all he's done or whatever. So
yeah, he's literally talking to the person next to him as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It just reminds me of that meme from Always Sunny where he's at the board and he's like getting stressed, trying to figure everything out.
Yeah,
he's just like
all the little arrows and diagrams.
It's just like he's against us.
It is so weird. Yeah. I feel like this is a Big Six fan issue as well. By the way, I think that every single, and it's just because Thwaife here, for example, has put it's a misplaced historical sense of entitlement. I think entitlement is the word. And again, this isn't just Arsenal. This is United, City, Chelsea. Every single big side feels like, the world's against us and the referees don't like us and you're not that special. You're not that big, guys. And I'm talking to every single big club fan here, Real Madrid, Barca, Bayern, whoever. You're not that big. You're not that special. Like, just chill out. There is no conspiracy. You're not that important. And just going back to that, the practicalities of it again, if we're to give it some form of credence, PGMOL is partly owned by who? The Premier League, right? What are the Premier League currently doing to City? Oh, they're literally in court. There is a case going on between those two entities, and we know that they hate each other. we saw the venom and spite in City's correspondence and the Premier League's correspondence in terms of the APT case. Never mind the 115 situation.
That's the thing they're gonna do.
Yeah, literally. Why would an organisation associated and partly owned by the Premier League be willing to assist City, who are despised by the Premier League? It's like when, you know, it hasn't really happened for like the past. I mean, it won't really happen now because draws are now gone, aren't they, from the Champions League? Or group stage draws anyway. But, you know, City would always get a favourable group stage draw for like the past few years. And maybe some like maybe an easy round of 16 game or something. And people would go, corruption. City have bribed UEFA in order to get an easier draw.
I don't think they understand odds.
Yeah, but also, Gasky, in 2020 or 2021, whenever it was, UEFA and City went to court. They hate each other. UEFA tried to ban us from the Champions League.
Well, they did. They did ban you.
Yeah.
And then you got it. Then you
exactly. No, yes.
So
you're spot on. They succeeded in banning us, but apparently they're now going to take a bribe.
Honestly, God.
Again, it's this really weird. This really weird logic. And also, like, just a side note tangent. Sorry, I'm doing a lot of ranting here, but that also, I don't know if you recall, Gasky, but do you remember like City's first 2 Champions League groups? You know, when we were in like pot 3 because we hadn't been
exactly, and they had. I can't remember who did they play. Did they play Bayern Munich in one of them?
Yeah. So in our first ever Champions League group, we had Bayern Munich and a Cavani, Hamšík, Lavezzi, Napoli. And we ended up finishing third and Villarreal as well. We ended up finishing third in that group with double-digit points, by the way. The next year, I don't know if you remember this one, is objectively, I think.
Was that Real?
Yes.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Was it Real Madrid PSG or something like that?
So it was worse than that. It was, in my opinion, maybe objectively the hardest group ever in Champions League history because it had 4 champions in it because this was before pot 1 was all champions. It had City, English champions, and we finished bottom of this group, by the way, City. Ajax, Dutch champions. Real Madrid, Spanish champions, and Dortmund, Klopp's Dortmund, German champions, and Dortmund got to the final, and Real Madrid got to a semi-final. It was the hardest group ever. But apparently we bribe UEFA.
When you're in pot 1, that's the whole point. You get an advantage.
Right, exactly.
That's the point. Yeah. That was the point.
You've earned, and if you top the group, you earn the right to have an easier opponent in the round of 16.
Yeah. And it's like nowadays you don't get any advantage because you've got to play 2 people from pot 1 and etc. So it means nothing now.
Yeah, it's just madness. It's just madness. That was a bit of a tangent, but what we're basically trying to say here is, guys, anyone trying to give any form of validity or credibility to this conspiracy theory is just nonsense. There is no innate hatred of Arsenal compared to Man City. If anything, it should be, logically speaking, it should be the opposite. It should be the PGMOL conspiring against City in favour of Liverpool and Arsenal. That's not happening either, by the way, obviously. But if we are trying to think about this logically, then the only logical conclusion is that an association linked with and partly owned by the Premier League should be not in favour of the club taking it to court. That is surely the logical conclusion. Is there any flaw there, Gasky, in that?
No, that makes sense. You know, if you're suing someone or you're trying to have someone relegated or whatever because of whatever's been going on, your logic would be let's try and rig it so they lose, not win.
Yeah, it's just
that would make no sense.
It is bizarre. It's bizarre. And it just goes back to that thing of this, because if it was just, you know, social media noise and it was a line drawn under that, then this wouldn't be the conversation worth having. But again, Arsenal fans sorry, go on.
It's going into, like you say, it's going into media as well, because like the way you look at, from my perspective anyway, when you look at TNT Sports now and you look at Sky Sports, they join this link. They link this now to social media. So when anything, like for example, like I was saying before, the discussion about would Ben White catch him is just social media talk. It's absolute bollocks. But Sky Sports have inherited that, and they're now comparing their fastest top speeds, and it's like, but that's got nothing to do with the rule. You can't just say he's not sent off because he will catch. He might pull a muscle. You don't know. He's not going to catch him. So it's a load of rubbish.
It absolutely is, and yeah. I don't really watch Sky outside of the matches, but yeah, so
it comes up because people comment going, "What a load of crap this is."
Yeah, so the fact that it's gone from It's gone from social media, which again you can just draw as whatever, but it's going to mainstream media, and it clearly is going into the fans in the ground. Again, Arsenal fans are entitled to chant whatever they want. Of course they are, and whether it's tongue-in-cheek or not, whatever. But the fact of the matter is that in the Bournemouth game, they were chanting that there is corruption and City are cheating, and City's name was brought up. So there's clearly a complex of they are influencing this somehow, and the players hear that, and then that leads to players complaining, going, this happens every week, and it's like, that's not fostering a strong mentality, in my opinion. And again, time will tell, because you could look at it one way. You could say, well, maybe it creates a siege mentality. So far, it's not doing that. They've not won a game where they've gone down to 10 men, for example. So it's clear, far, exactly. It's not going in their favour in that respect. Let us know if you've got any more thoughts on that topic, guys, before we do move on to the actual football. Again, apologies if you're not interested in that sort of thing, but I just wanted to get something out on this channel just because it's actually mental. We Gasky and I have been in agreement about this sort of thing for years now, that it's just
it's
weird.
It's like, you can have your opinions on, especially United of old, about Howard Webb is a United fan and all this rubbish.
Yeah,
and it's coincidental. I think a lot of it is, and it's never a thing.
No, yeah, exactly. At worst, it is a subconscious bias. There is no. Yeah. I'm not having that. There was ever a period that's outside of something that's been proven in Serie A, for example. In terms of the Premier League, nothing's been proven. No one was bribed in that sense. Give me the evidence, and I'll be very interested. But until then, let's reel that in. So this is the conspiracy that Toby was talking about earlier. So early 2000s, Wenger was vocal about his displeasure with refereeing standards. Was the only manager making that of a point. So a lot of dubious decisions were made against Arsenal. That's the conspiracy, that the referee association took a disdain towards Arsenal at the time as a means to back each other. But it doesn't apply to the modern day. And even then, I'd probably say that it might just be like a subconscious, if there was anything, more of a subconscious thing rather than an active.
And if it's not happened before, it might pay, you're basically telling someone whose career you're going against your morals, and you get pissed off. You might go, I'm just going to give it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and then you might do.
Did you also see Gasky Jack Grealish doing Bernardo's only tiny, how can he interfere with play? That was just really funny.
No, it was.
Premier League giving City and Newcastle every decision. I can't believe people can't see it, says Rampage. Right, okay, so again, so I think Rampage appears to be one of those people. So once again, I feel like Newcastle and the Premier League don't like each other, because the Premier League literally fast-forwarded a directive in terms of associated party transactions to stop and limit Newcastle.
Yeah,
Newcastle.
That was why this thing's in place, and why City were done, is because of this rule was put in for them.
Exactly. there was I can't remember if it was over a year, I feel like, of Newcastle and the Premier League going back and forth in terms of allowing the ownership to even happen.
It took forever to happen.
Yeah. So this idea that they're getting every decision is madness, to be honest. Again, I can bring up decisions from last season. That is just very wrong, Rampage. And again, if you switch on your noggin for a little moment, you should be able to conclude it's the opposite. It really should be other teams getting
Just think about
decisions.
How ridiculous what the people say is. Just think about how ridiculous for a second.
No, exactly. There we go. No racism. Wait, what? Yeah, we don't want any of that, guys. A one-eyed man is a king in the land of the blind. That's a great quote. It just shows how uneducated football opinions can be. City are literally fighting the Prem. Why would they help us? Exactly. And it's the same thing with UEFA as well. Hello, top of the league. Since Bournemouth scored in the 8th game of the season, many Arsenal creators said, season over, they have no strength. I mean, that's just a reactive thing, to be fair. I've been guilty of that before, where in the moment you go, oh god, season's over, throw the toys out the pram. So
I've done it this season.
Yeah,
I predicted United finish top 4 this shit. So
yeah, that does come part
belief.
Yeah, that does come part and parcel with just being a football fan in first. But if it's in the moment,
my team, I think they'll do well, and then the crap, and you go, well,
yeah, exactly. If it's done in the moment, then I don't think there's an issue there. In all honesty. And yeah, guys, please listen to the NobBot, guys. Leave a like on the video. It helps us grow, helps more people see this content, and hopefully they'll enjoy that content. So hit like if you are not a fraud. We've got over 100 people watching.
Arsenal fans to see it.
You got over 100 people watching currently, but not even 50 likes. So let's please get the likes up, lads and ladettes. I'd like to see if we can get to 115 by the end of the show. If there's anything else you want us to discuss in respect of that Arsenal rant or the conspiracy which actually doesn't exist, if you want us to bust any more myths, guys, feel free to let us know, and we'll be here for that because we're very good at busting myths, aren't we, Gasky?
There was a ginger guy on Mythbusters as well.
Is that like your
You watched
dad or
Mythbusters?
something? I did watch Mythbusters.
No, my dad's bald. You know my dad's bald.
I thought the Mythbusters guy was bald.
No, I'm sure he's not. I'm sure he had hair. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he was. I don't know.
Maybe there were two though. To be fair, maybe one of them was bald.
He had a ginger beard though, so.
Ah.
And my dad isn't ginger, so.
He looks like Pepe. That's all I know.
He doesn't look like Pepe.
He does. He looks a lot like
For God's
Pepe.
sake.
Right. Yeah. At some point, we need to dox Gasky's dad because
What?
he looks
Do you want
just
me to
like
go
Pepe.
ask my dad's? Do you want me to go ask my dad's permission to put his plaster his picture on
Yeah,
Facebook?
and also, I do
On
actually.
social media.
And also, your mum has literally said that he does look like him. I've asked your mother, and she said yes. So,
Well, she's just daft. She doesn't like Pepe anyway, so.
Anyway, guys, let's get to the what's it. Unless anyone's got anything else to say on the what's it on the Arsenal situation. Let's move on now, shall we? To
Should we talk about football?
City and United. Yeah, exactly. Let's start with United then, shall we? We'll go into a bit of City. We have sort of touched on City with the Bernardo Silva duck. But Gasky, your team actually won a game of football. Now you're a happy
And played
boy.
well.
Yes.
Relatively well.
Tell me more about that. You know, why did you play well against Brentford, who are actually a good team?
Yeah, it was like first half was a bit meh. Like it was not much happened until the 45th minute when clearly I don't know if the doctors just couldn't stop bleeding. You know, I don't know what was going on with Delit, and then they scored. Is what it is, I guess. But the second half seemed like they got so pissed off by what happened. They decided, let's give him a game. And across the whole pitch, they were just brilliant. Everyone was just played their part. And that is how they're trying to get him to play. But getting him to do it for 90 minutes is the issue. And I think that's they need that consistency. They need to do what they did in that second half against Brentford every match. Because that second goal is a prime example. They completely suffocated them. They couldn't get out, and then it was a fantastic goal in the end. They just need to improve on this of playing this way and doing this for 90 minutes throughout a match. Make the correct substitutions to keep pushing that, you know, rather than taking players off and then completely ruining the structure, which was kind of like what happened against Palace. They played well against Palace, and then Rashford went up front, and the press from the front just completely died, which is going to happen when you don't have that player. And I think that's just what needs to improve. Obviously, we're in a situation where it is a mess at the moment, and a lot of obviously opinions fly about who should be in charge and all that stuff. But if we just think about the football on the pitch, it's much better, and they just need to push on from that. Really, need to get a few games on the trot of playing well. Having a proper number 9 back in Højlund has helped, and yeah, I think everyone played well, and players coming back from injuries as well.
Talk to me about Xerxes then, because you said a proper number 9. You think that's helped?
It's the pressing from the front. Like you want to play that style where you just suffocate teams and you press. He's a number 9 that will do that. Xerxes does it as well, but I think he's better at the link up. So I don't think we'll ever see them together. But I think Xerxes would be better with a striker on the pitch with him. But I don't know. It's difficult to see him offer what Højlund offers the rest of the team and what's needed. That, you know, proper striker instinct. Again, he's still young. There's still time. But I think that's where you need to understand exactly where he fits in. That's what I can't see at the moment.
And talk to me about Marcus Rashford, who...
he's much better. Much better.
Why?
Still overpaid.
Why?
But much better. He gets involved, and even the last few weeks, he gets involved and he does what he's good at, which is taking players on. Okay. Actually taking players on, do it. You know, have that confidence to do it. You know, his ball in was fantastic. You know, and he ended up I don't even know if he was on that wing at the time, but he ended up over there. He wants the ball. He's enjoying it. We know he's a player that relies on, positivity. He has to be positive to play well, which is very difficult, especially when you're playing for United at the moment. But
Mhm.
yeah, he was everywhere on the pitch. He did it against when we played Porto. He was proper making defenders push back, and he's been better the last few weeks. But again, we know what he's like. He needs to do it throughout the season.
He does.
Like a lot of these players, not just him. A lot of these players need to consistently play like this to
That was
get
going to be
anywhere close to where we should be.
that was just going to be my next player. So who are for you like the key players in order for this to try to be some sort of turning point in United's season? Who are going to be the key players in that respect for you? Basically, who needs to step up in your opinion? Essentially,
The front. I think Garnacho, Rashford, and Højlund is probably our best front three. And the issue is they're going to say that line that everyone says on their day, but that on their
Classic.
day needs to be every fucking day.
Yeah. just I'm going to chat. Who is the best on that day footballer? Let me know. I'm going Paul Pogba. Gasky, proceed.
He probably was. And yeah, that front three, because that front three is perfect in terms of you've got the fast wingers, you got this, can take on people, proper target forward, and then midfield's still a bit obviously who's the best team, who's the best to play, because he's been playing Eriksen and Casemiro, he's played Mainu and Casemiro, Mainu and Eriksen. I think he needs to make his mind up of what's best because they need to get used to playing together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Thursday Bruno's banned, so we might see Eriksen at 10. We'll see how that goes. And then defense-wise, I think it's safer to have Evans and De Ligt rather than Martinez and De Ligt, because clearly we're not there yet in terms of actually being good every week.
So having Johnny Evans the safest option in
because Yoro's injured.
2024.
Because Yoro's injured. Because Martinez is too reckless when you're in this current. If you were structured very well and you were playing well, you could get away with it. But having a player when you're struggling just fly out of defense and leave a massive hole isn't helping. So I think him at left back was much better. He was out of the way of danger, which I think was the safest thing to do. So I think when Yoro comes back, I think it would De Ligt and Yoro's probably your best option, and maybe have Martinez as a left back, and he'll come in for some games and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think Onana's been. I think he's been very, very good this season.
He has. He actually has.
Really. Yeah, less errors in him. But again, that's because we're facing less shots.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing much better in that regard. I think we've got the 4th best defense in the league now.
Yeah, well, that was never sustainable, was it? Like the amount of shots the United were facing, that was so not sustainable.
Against any team, though, they're gonna go in, eventually. But yeah, like the 4th best defense in the league, I think. Might be wrong on that. I think it is. And then we lost 3-0 in 2 of them games. So it shows that there is something there, but it needs to come out all the time. You can't rely on individual brilliance, which is what was last season. If you look at United's goal catalog last season, you'd think they were amazing when they weren't, because they scored so many ridiculous goals. So I think these signs, but the signs need to appear more often.
Definitely. I mean, top of the league here says, judging United on one game is a common theme. The positives never last.
Exactly. That's what I said.
Yeah. So
one game, you can't judge them on that one game because we did that. I think a lot of people did that against Bloody Barnsley, and look what happened afterwards. So you can't. You just got to. I mean, it was. I think it was. It was last season or the season before when we were like all top 5 leagues. We had the most wins. So we played in every tournament and winning all them games on massive runs, and we were really good. We need that back. Where that's gone wrong, we need that back.
Yeah, definitely. Rampage in the chat. I'm just gonna, an aside here. Just calm down. You're getting a bit political in the chat. Like, this isn't a political show. I did do a politics undergrad, so if maybe we could talk about that another time. But right now, let's chill out. And if you persist, I will be asking a moderator to time you out. So let's all move on from whatever the conversation was there. Otherwise, Toby/Jack will be timing you out. Let's move on, shall we, please, guys? We're now talking about United and City. Thank you very much. Gasky, you didn't answer my question, and that's because I didn't ask it, to be fair. I asked it to the chat. Who is the best on that day player? I don't think the chat have got the idea, because some Spartacus said R9.
I was close to Pogba. And Pogba, I can probably...
So buying on that... So let me just establish by what I mean like an on that day player is. A player who, in theory, has a very high ceiling, but was not necessarily consistent enough over a long enough time in their career. But on their day, they were unplayable. So, for example, Paul Pogba, in my opinion, is an incredibly overrated player, certainly in terms of his United career, because he never had season after season after season of showing that talent. But
he had signs, didn't he?
On his day, particularly, you know, in the City,
the derby,
2-0 down, he was one of the best midfielders.
Second half.
Yeah.
It's the best performance you've probably ever seen. It was ridiculous.
Exactly. You know, Adel Taarabt, on his day, could take out an entire midfield and defence on his own.
Adel Taarabt, though, is he in on his day or Streets won't forget?
Well,
which one is it?
I think you can have both, personally. I think that, you know, there is
I think he's,
there.
I think he's, there's a line, there's overlaps a little bit. Yeah, that type of player where,
So
who are you
going
remember Matty Taylor for Portsmouth? He just shoot from the halfway line and it'd go in. You know what I mean? On his day when he could have that in his locker. I think he did it twice in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's iconic. That's really good. Let me see what you guys have said. Amad Diallo, brilliant. I think
with a massive ceiling.
I think he's just a good player, to be fair. Adriano's a good shout, to be fair. Yes, absolutely. Andy Carroll. Oh, that is a really good shout, actually.
Which club, though? Which club?
England in Euro 2012. That one. That specific campaign when he absolutely destroyed Sweden. That was the day for Andy Carroll. Oh, that's a great shout, Spartacus. Pato. Yes.
That's a good one.
Pato on his day.
When he was at Milan.
Yeah.
He was good.
Absolute baller. Ndombele, yes. That is like the perfect example, I feel like.
That's a weird one. Like, he was a great player with Tottenham. The rest is history.
And that was the end of that. Company, chill. He's just a great player. Like, that's not the idea of this.
Did City not have a few in the early 10s?
Oh yeah, they'll have been playing.
They signed a few players.
Elano would have been one of those where on his day, like.
Do you remember Giovanni?
Oh yeah, exactly.
Charlie Adam.
Yeah, so some of these lads you are not beating on their day. I'd even, I mean, I don't know if Craig Bellamy counts because he was just a consistently decent player, but also on his day he was also just pretty unplayable. So, let us know, guys, who is the definition of on his day. I personally think Pogba's a really good shout because people talk about him
in terms of the ceilings. People would say he could have been the greatest ever.
Yeah, exactly. Like people were like comparing him to Yaya Toure
if he was consistently there, then but he wasn't.
Oh yeah, absolutely. City fans are celebrating a Walker injury. That's outrageous if that is true. You should never be celebrating an injury like that. That's disgusting. You know who the best on their day player is, and people won't like this. Zidane. It's a very good point because Zidane did suffer a lot from inconsistencies throughout his career at club level. So that is a very good.
It's a fair point, actually. Yeah.
Very good shout from. So people remember Zidane as the moments. They remember the France goals in the '98 World Cup. They remember the 2000s
against Leverkusen volley.
Yeah, in the Champions League final. But they don't really talk about. But what about his Serie A campaign 98-99? You know, what about his Real Madrid campaign, 04-05 or whenever it was? They don't really talk about that. They talk about the moments, and I think that's a very interesting conversation maybe for another day in terms of Zidane. But I think that with a lot of people who, it's hard because if you didn't either watch him or haven't gone back and watched his footage, which everyone can do in terms of footage being online, it's hard to talk about him because obviously he does have those moments on him. Rampage is absolutely fine. We've moved on. We've all shaken hands. We're all lovely. We're all friends here. Everyone's welcome here. It's all good. Well, not everyone, I don't want. I'm not going to say it anyway. No, we don't. We don't want people who do. We don't want people who should be in prison. Basically, we're not going to say the word. But you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. You need to finish that sentence then.
Wilfred Boney. That's a great one.
Yeah, he's a good one. Yeah,
on his day.
What was the Spanish striker called for City? What was his name?
Negredo.
He had a Negredo, he had a spell, didn't he? He had a
spell. That one season from Negredo, chef's kiss.
Jovetic, it was him as well.
He had Stefan Jovetic, yeah. I mean,
he had spells
on his day and when he wasn't injured. Yeah, absolutely, 100%, 100%. Yeah. Nasri, I think that's a little bit.
He was pretty good.
I think that Nasri was just consistently very good as well. In fairness,
yeah.
So I wouldn't have. Although on his day he was elite. I feel like he never really reached his full potential at City, so maybe I can see that.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because when you say on his day, on his day, it's like you can say about any player really. Any player can have that one game.
Yeah, exactly. The
Can't
suggestion
they?
with on his
So,
day, I think for me
yeah,
is in general they're like sort of like a 6 out of 10, maybe even
yeah.
like a 4, inconsistent,
And they
but
have a 10 every now and then.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So the opposite of an on his day player is David Silva, is Paul Scholes. These were just 9
Yeah.
out of 10 every
They
single
were
season players.
Oh, I tell you, Berbatov. Berbatov would have
Oh,
games where
yes.
he'd just vanish, and then he'd have his game like against when he scored 5 against Blackburn, and he was even creating it from his own box.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, Patrick Bamford's a great shout. Lockdown Danny Ings, and this is the one I think. Again, perfect example.
Lockdown Martial.
Him.
NHS Martial, they call him.
Martial
Yeah,
is an on his day player, 100%. I'd say
He is.
Lingard as well,
He was.
maybe. And this is a
Yeah.
great example, Adama Traore. Definitely.
Yeah, his day rarely came. Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
30th of February.
That
usually.
one against
City.
City. That was the one game where he decided he knows how to score.
Yeah, exactly. Mendy had the worst,
Yeah.
the absolute worst time there. Is there anything else you wanted to chat about with United, Gasky, before we move on to a bit of City talk? No, but I mean, we'll have to see. Who do you play next? It's away from home.
Fenerbahce on Thursday.
Yeah, who in the league? It's
Against,
away. 'cause City are at
league.
home.
Can't remember.
Shall I find out? Should we see if you're likely to win or not?
I'm not sure.
Let's
Trying to think
have
of who else we've still got.
a look. See. So who do United play? They play. Oh, West Ham away.
Oh, can be a
They've
tricky
been a
one.
bit
But again,
weird
West Ham,
this
they're very
season.
they're very hit and miss.
Yeah, they are an on their day sort of team, aren't they?
On
This
their day
season, West
team. There
Ham.
you go.
Yeah,
There
I
you
mean,
go, on their day team.
they were decent defensively against us for large portions, but then against Chelsea, they just shit the bed and just forgot how to defend. So it'd be interesting to see how they play. Will they go for it and play into United's hands? But they're around to you in the table. They're only 3 points off you, so that's an important win, because if you win that, there's a potential to shoot up, 5 places. So
That's what I mean. They need that run.
yeah, that runner. Absolutely. City, Gasky. Let's, for the next like 10-15 minutes, because obviously you're on your lunch break, so you need to get back to doing your job of work where you're actually employed, rather than just talking to me about King football.
I think I'd rather do this, to be honest.
Hey, of course. City against Wolves. Your thoughts? You watched the game?
Yeah.
Tricky one to
It's
dissect.
very interesting. Yeah, it's a similar story for the last few games, where they're setting up camp in their half, and obviously you're always going to be skeptical to the counter. That's just how you play. That's any team would playing like that would do. But it just seems like I don't know if it's like they're running out of ideas, because again, it's like I think I said during the Arsenal game, Diaz is the one that ends up on the ball so often, and he's not going to create much. I don't know. It just feels like each attack dries up because they just end up passing it around the box, and then you're not playing into Haaland's hands then because he's just marked.
Yeah, John McKenzie, who is one of my favourite football analysts, shout out to him. He made a really interesting point. I guess it's something that we all know, but we never really vocalise. It was this really interesting point. He said that teams that come up against City are one of the only teams in the league who know exactly how the opposition are going to play every single time they come up against them.
Yeah.
Which means that, which sounds obvious, but it's the consequences are really interesting. So it means that for a whole week, Wolves, for example, know 100% how to set up tactically, and they know exactly what their players should be doing and in what phases. They know that they're not going to have any sustained possession. They know that their best chance is to counterattack. Basically, any other team in the league, the other team might change their approach, or it might be a closer encounter.
Yeah.
But with City, it's unless you're Liverpool or Arsenal, and even then that's another thing if you're at the Etihad.
Because it's that thing, isn't it, where you're playing against the best team in the world. Teams probably did it when United were the best. You approach the game not to lose, rather than to win. So when you're playing Liverpool and Arsenal play City, they need to look at it as we need to beat them, because that's the difference between winning the league and not winning the league. Wolves, however, who are struggling, will just go, let's try and get a point. Let's not get battered. So they're going to approach the game from that. Well, you can say it might be not negative to them, but in terms of attacking, negative
Practical,
aspect.
pragmatic perspective.
And do how team beat City, and that's just counter them, which they did in the first 5 minutes. They got a counter and scored. You got to take them chances, haven't you? But yeah, like I said, they approach the game in that way. It's a good point that the teams do know how they're going to play, because City have played the same way for the last 5 years, really.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, we need to prep for this, we need to prep for that and that. It's like, no. We are going to have around 30% of the ball, and we're going to be in our own half for the majority of it, in our own box, defending for the majority of it. And in terms of sustained attacks, there's not going to be any, and we're just going to have to counterattack. And again, it sounds like a really simple thing to say, but when you have that knowledge and that almost like that, it's almost like the pressure's off your shoulders in training. Because it's not like, oh, but what if they set up like this and what if they do that? Now the structure might change and the way they attack might change, but in terms of the general out of possession mindset you need to have, it's going to be the same every single time, which makes it easier to set up
the only
for.
thing that can change is the lineup, because obviously starting with Doku and Savio would be a very, very different way that you will attack than if you played Foden and Silva.
Yes.
In them kind of roles. So, I mean, I found it odd that they came off, because I thought the answer when you're playing against these teams is that winger. Because as soon as you remove one of the defenders out of the way, you're in. Because I think the amount of times, I think Doku got down the line quite a few times. So did Savio. It was coming. So when that was changed, I felt it was a bit strange. It's similar to the Arsenal game. It just dries up. And you end up in a situation where you're just passing it around the box. And then you're hoping for a corner kick and you score it. It happens. But, it's that situation of, is it like I think it might be one of your tweets actually. Is it sustainable?
No.
To keep playing that way.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to score them all. Like I said about United last season, they were scoring worldies. If those worldies didn't happen, they don't happen every week. Where would you be?
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of sustainable if you've got loads of serious long shot threats on the pitch. For example, we scored so many long shots last season, and I actually argue what's that, sorry?
Rodri was most of them, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, Foden actually, but yeah, you're absolutely right. So that worked a lot last year. For example, at the Bernabeu, we scored all 3 goals from outside the box. Yeah. Now, one was a free kick, a goalkeeper, but that was almost a strategy which worked, because you had Haaland pinning back the opposition back line, and in addition to that, you had loads of out of the box threats. You had Gvardiol and Rodri and Foden. As like the main 3. All of them, as it turns out, are fantastic shooters from outside the box. We've got and De Bruyne. So 4. You've got 4 fantastic long shot threats from outside the box. Some of the best in the league. Foden was objectively the best in the league at that. De Bruyne might go down as the best midfielder in Premier League history in respect of shooting out from inside the box. Rodri, as we all know, and Gvardiol is probably the best, from certain with his right foot anyway.
A defender ever, Jesus.
Yeah.
Sure, he was left-footed.
yeah, exactly. So you've got 4 players who can do that. It becomes a viable strategy. If you've only got one on the pitch, in Gvardiol, who is still a defender at the end of the day, so obviously there's no Rodri for the end of the season. Yeah. Bruyne's out with injury. He's injury prone. For some reason, Foden's still not starting. Don't know if it's still like the personal issue which is going on, but he's still not starting. So you've only got one of those, long shot breaking players on the pitch. It's just not a sustainable strategy, in my view, to rely on that individual brilliance. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And something needs to change. And maybe Nunez is the answer in terms of being more solid from midfield perspective. If you saw the tackle that he did, which led to the corners, was wonderful.
Again, which is another one that people are saying was a foul, but...
Oh, yeah, we didn't touch on that earlier. Good lord.
Even touch that. I'm sorry that you can see him get the ball.
Yeah, and I've never seen this before. Football's a contact sport. Just because you put your hands, just because you touch someone,
if you touch someone, doesn't mean it's a foul.
Yeah, exactly.
If there's force, it's a foul.
Yeah. Now, if you forcibly shove someone to the ground, then it's a foul. Fine, but to physically touch someone and maybe do a slight nudge, that is not inherently a foul. It is a contact sport at the end of the day.
You're running at high speed. You're going to put your hand in front. You're not just going to run into someone.
Yeah.
So
and I don't even think I saw any Wolves player even try to contend it was a foul. It was just a wonderful tackle.
It's weird. I think the fans did, because obviously that's just how football goes. Yeah, the fans, of course, expect certain things, but none of the players complained.
Yeah. So bizarre. Going to wrap up in like 5 or so minutes, guys, because Gasky just need to get back to work. So get your final comments and questions in the chat for us, please. Hello, Just Memes, who says, in Unbiased POV, do you think the last goal was offside? No, so as we established earlier, it objectively isn't. This isn't even a case of subjectivity. It isn't because
he's in front of the goalkeeper when the ball comes in.
Yes,
that's not a foul.
You can't be offside from a corner.
Like I said, that's what I'm saying. And like I said, if the goalkeeper makes an attempt to get the ball, he'll probably get a foul because Bernardo Silva stops him. Because goalkeepers do get that kind of rule, and he jumps out of the way.
Yeah. The offside question only becomes relevant at the point of John Stones' header. The point at which Stones makes contact with the ball. That's the only time we need to be assessing offside. Before then, it's irrelevant. When Stones is heading the ball, look at what Bernardo Silva is doing. He's actively ducking out of the way. He's nowhere near in Sar's way, nor is he in his line of vision.
Sar is staring at the ball.
Yeah. So there is no world in which he's interfering. He's actively opposite of interfering. So objectively, no. There is no argument here. There's no subjectivity. It's objectively not offside. Objectively not offside. If we play, Lethu says, if we play Savio and Doku, we need legs in midfield. They're more likely to lose the ball in dangerous areas. That's where Pep switched them to limit loss of possession. And it just didn't work. For me, this obsession with supreme control, I think we're going backwards. We are going backwards in that respect from a City perspective. You can't have supreme control every single game. It's just not feasible. And then when we counter press, we've got no players with recovery pace. It's Gundogan, it's Kovacic. Yeah. So it's just an impossible situation that we're putting ourselves.
You need into. Like say you need a Nunes on the pitch then, things like that.
Yeah, it's just poor. Yeah, it can't be offside from the corner. Yeah, absolutely, Metalli, 100%. Most people say the goal should count, but the 1% that do are counted as. Wait, most people say the goal should count, but the 1% that don't maybe are counted as majority. Yeah, the people saying it don't are just mental, to be honest. Never thought we wanted Nunes to play so much for City, but we need legs in the midfield. Absolutely, and maybe that will get remedied in January. Maybe, but we'll have to see what happens there. Southx says, on a Champions League away game, who do you think makes it in the back line along with Diaz, Stones, or Kanji? Well, I'm of the view that Kanji should be playing at right back for a period of time, so I'd play both, personally, Southx. Just so I want 4 centre-backs. Just remember how to... We haven't kept a clean sheet since Chelsea in the league, Gasky.
Oh,
Chelsea.
Really?
The first game of the season. I haven't kept a clean sheet since then. We need to remember how to do it. Guys.
Are they considered the same as United then?
I'll check for you. We've conceded too many goals, though.
Yeah.
We've conceded too many
goals.
That's
definitely a good start for United if they conceded the same as City or similar.
Let's have a look at the
United
table.
have got like 4 clean sheets, 5 clean sheets.
We've conceded 9 goals. Yeah, United have conceded 9 as well.
Yeah.
Mad. That's a poo-poo. I guess the main issue is it's all similar goals. Like our counter press is being beaten too easily. So at least it's just one issue which can hopefully be solved, in January or by playing Nunes, whatever. But it's not ideal. Thankfully, we have scored the most goals, 19, but we don't have the best goal difference. That belongs to Liverpool. They are 2 ahead of us. They've only conceded 3 goals. Liverpool. That is very
good.
Very impressive there. Very, very impressive indeed. If Arsenal's against us counting and still farting near Sarah is no issue whatsoever. Yeah, it's a non-issue. The fact that it's become an issue is just staggering to me. We can't rely on virus screamers. We'll receive a rude awakening soon if we don't sort something out. I can't tell you what to change, says Tommy. Absolutely. That's something that we definitely commented on today. Lads, we really hope you have enjoyed the show today. Please make sure to leave a like on the video as you are leaving the show. We're always going to be here Tuesdays at 12 p.m. Usually it'll be my co-host, Gasky, but if there is not much to talk about in terms of United, or if Gasky's not free, I will ask a special guest to come on instead. We've had Tom Little for Liverpool. We've had Connor for Chelsea. Who knows? This show was about Arsenal to start with, and there was no Arsenal representative.
Could be some spice, maybe.
So maybe the next special guest, whenever we have one of those, maybe there should be an Arsenal fan. If you've got any ideas of who you'd like to see as the Arsenal fan, do let me know. It has to be someone practical. Like I can't, go and get King Arsene Wenger, But you know, if there's another creator who you think I
He's
might,
busy adding new rules.
if you think there's another creator who I can maybe chat to, like I know Rory for example, I've obviously got his digits, so I could hit him up maybe. I don't have many other Arsenal fans in my content in my network, so but I can always try to reach out to them. So do let me know, because I would like to speak to again Arsenal fan on the show at some point. Oscar Bob Gasky, I forgot he's coming back. Pep said Bob wouldn't be back until Jan or Feb. Oh, what an L. I thought he was coming back sooner. Oh, never mind. Right, okay. Might not come back into the new year.
Anyway.
L. Lee Gunner. I don't have Lee's number, so that might be tricky.
I can never tell who he supports, to be honest.
Arsenal.
He seems but he seems like he seems level-headed.
Lee.
He doesn't seem biased at all, because I can never tell who he supports, which is a good thing.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, I can never tell, which is always a good person to, read tweets of.
Yeah. Now I don't follow Lee on Twitter, so I don't see everything he tweets. But when it comes up across my timeline, yeah, I'm not endorsing everything Lee says. I don't agree with everything he says, but a lot of it is a lot of sense. To be fair,
Yeah,
like
no, it is.
fair play. There is a lot of sense going on there. I mean, I think he echoed a lot of what we were saying before in terms of like the accountability points.
Which is good.
And I've met Lee a couple of times, and he was sound. So there we go. We'll see. I'll see what I can do. Doe isn't like Lee. Okay, fair enough. But hey, I'm sure not everyone likes me either. Lots of people dislike other people.
I like you.
All right, mate. Chill out. I'm not going to marry you.
Whatever.
Guys, thank you so much for joining again. Please make sure to leave a like on the way out. Shout out to Donna for rejoining the Ultras Club. If you guys do want to support the channel, support the NobCast, you can do so by becoming a Ultra and a member on the channel. Click the link in the pinned comment, or click the join button, or click the link in the video description. Until then, guys, I've been City Fan Nobbins.
I have been United Fan Gasky.
And we'll catch you guys next time, 12 o'clock on Tuesday, every single week. Goodbye, guys.